how can one really convert this entire crisis into an opportunity? Samir, I guess everybody knows that there is going to be pain, there is going to be a problem, there is going to be a slowdown, there would be an NPA issues. Some of the sectors would virtually be belly up, some of them will be on the verge of bankruptcy. But what are you doing in this market? I mean, today I think we need to discuss not what the problem is, that how can one really cope up and convert this crisis into an opportunity?
Well, the thing is that it is not necessary that because there's a problem, there is a solution straight away. So I don't think that we should look at it that every crisis is an opportunity on day one of the crisis or week one of the crisis. I say to people that most of us, we as a fund manager and people as individuals, have sufficiently large amounts invested in the stock market, unless you are, switching on the channel for the first time today. Nobody should cut off their SIPs, and we can show you many reasons why, or not reasons, but examples how if you had invested in 2007 December, if you had invested before World War II in Japan, if you had invested in 1929 in October in US, you would have done well. But I also don't like the other side of the equation, which is that today there is a problem. Today, right now, I want to take an advantage of it because there are scenarios which are theoretically quite bad, and it is not that they can be ruled out. So there is no all or none in my life, either as a fund manager or as a commentator on the market. So therefore, you will not be able to take very big advantage of it because you will never have the confidence to put huge amounts in today to say that this crisis is going to change my life because I suddenly sold everything and put it into the market today. So don't look at it as an all or none, because when you say make the crisis into a massive opportunity, I assume, not just making 10% on one trade, that confidence neither we have, neither we want to believe that we have it. It is a slow process. The reality is that if the economy is slowing down, it will take 6-9 months to recover. Some parts will be affected. And I think before that, India must execute this policy well. It is not enough to have a policy. It is good to have it executed well. In between, we should not have 30% of people not have daily wage, people not having any money, or policemen hitting people on the road because they are going to their stock market office or going to grocery shopping or whatever. All these things also have to be done.
Samir, completely with you when you say that there is nothing like in binary event. I'm not saying it is a binary event, but what we're trying to understand, Samir, is that what should investors do? Panic and assume that India is going to come collapsing down because stock prices on an average are down 35 to 40%? Or now it's time to say, look, the damage has already happened and now I need to bear the pain?
No, of course, that's what I was saying, that nobody needs to walk out or stop his SIPs and all that, because there's enough evidence that when the market is down beyond the point, maybe some stocks don't come back, maybe some fund managers don't come back, but the markets will always come back, and that we have evidence, which I think I presented to you once in one of the conferences over the last 100 years across some 14, 16 countries. So all that is clear. All I'm saying is, when you say turn the crisis into an opportunity, I don't think it is going to become an opportunity, because bottom line is every time we lose 4 years of gains or 5 years of gains, next day say, no, it's a great opportunity. It is not. It is to hang in the game. The game is that over time equity does well. You should not back off today. You may back off from your existing fund or your existing stock but move somewhere else if you're angry, but not so much that we are walking out of the market, because it will come back. But it is also not the situation right now to say that suddenly I will make this crisis into the biggest opportunity I've had because I waited for 4 years for it, because very few would have waited for today. We are all mostly half in or 60% in, and you can add a little and keep faith in that, because that faith is unassailable. But to say today that it's a big opportunity, point is, first we have to feel bad that nearly every year India has underperformed global markets, and it is doing that even today, and will most probably do it for the next few months also. So keep the faith is all I think needs to be, and maybe add a little depending on, as we say, what you do depends on what you have done so far. If you are not invested at all in equities and you really start today, yeah, maybe you can add 20%. But for people who are already in, just keeping with whatever were your plans and maybe a little bit more here and there should be good enough.
Samir, I must say, this pandemic has turned you into a philosopher and observing behavioral sciences. But what is it, Samir, that you have done in the last 10 days? You said it's all or none, but have you sort of gone back to the drawing board, said, okay, what is it that you need to chuck out, leverage positions that you don't need in your portfolio anymore, more and more stick with quality? I'm sure there's some rethinking at least that the last 10, 15 days that you must have done.
But I totally agree. If you ask me like that, there are, many things we have done. All I'm saying is I don't subscribe to the theory to basically say that this is the best opportunity as if it was a gift that somebody has given us. It's a negative and we have to deal with it. So what we have done is, we have cut some of our shorts going into the roll because we feel that those stocks by chance or whatever have fallen like 50% in this settlement. And we just don't feel like rolling them forward. So we covered some of them yesterday. We also covered one of our bank nifty short positions. And we bought two financial stocks, but very little, very, very little, which one was actually completely new and one was our existing position, and we bought totally some 3% in them. So totally we would have added maybe 15% that way if you look at it to our net position because we covered the shorts. But covering our shorts is the same as somebody else buying along, although a little different, because the main advantage of this long-short business is that the short is like an overlay. It's not that you're selling your preferred stocks and then buying them back, but that is so complicated to do. But it's more like an overlay which you just, separately take off or put on, and it doesn't change your thinking on which stock you have. But on the margin, I totally agree with you that in the first round, it will be quality or the stocks that have actually fallen the least. And here the fallen the least would mean 30%. So there is no need to buy stocks that are down 80% or 70%. But there is absolutely no need, on the other hand, to buy stocks that are not down at all to say that these are big beneficiaries, because then what is the point of this whole market weakness? So stocks which are down in the 30, 40, 25 to 40, 50% range, which otherwise you believe are okay, are better buys than trying to say that stocks that are down 70, 80% will be the first round rebounders. Some of them will, but I'm talking, in a more general sense.
Sure. But then, Samir, that leaves you with those same 10-odd names which have done well in the last year and a half, and they have fallen the least only. The same HDFC Bank, the same ICICI Bank, Bajaj Finance, etc. Is that what you're saying, or is there going to be a rejig when the market recovers? Is it going to be necessities which are going to bounce back faster? Because I'm guessing that's where the first earnings recovery will come in.
That looks like such a ridiculous argument which today somebody is making, that, because somebody has hoarded for 3 weeks of sugar or 3 weeks of rice, that I should buy a consumer staple company. I mean, if he is bought it for 3 weeks ahead and when it is lifted, he's not going to buy 3 weeks more. So what is the point of wasting that way a crisis by buying a stock which is down 10%? But if your favorite stock, like these banks, are down 30, 35, 40%, why should you discover new names? I have not understood your point. We are not here trying to prove a point to either our investors or ourselves that we find original new names that you have not heard of. Because, many PMSs do like that we will buy these stocks that you don't know about, but only I know about, and these are 10 stocks that I know like the back of my hand, blah, 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 and give me money and lock it up for 3 years. The general thing is that these stocks, we know, are guaranteed survivors. Right now, the first round is guaranteed survivors. Second is, do these guys do things which are useful in terms of not having, but they should not have not fallen, because then there's no point. So actually the stocks which are down 30, 40, 50%, but otherwise were your favorites, and most probably nothing will change with this crisis in their relative position in the market. What more do you need? I'm saying even there, because mostly since they were our favorites, we already had them before. And since they've fallen a little less than others or in line with the market, our weightage in them has not come down. So therefore, my today's new actions in buying 1% more here and 1% more there is just for me to stay busy. But it is not changing my life, and it's not an opportunity of a lifetime, because when they recover, they would have recovered what I lost in 1 month. So I'm not going to celebrate this as an opportunity. It is just that I'm hoping that these stocks will recover first, and maybe on the way up or now, we will add 200 basis points more to them. So that is just, just everybody staying busy. So I'm saying please change the idea from saying this crisis is a big opportunity. This crisis is also a way to feel that without this crisis also we were not doing so well. This crisis may have allowed some of us to use that argument. I mean, Vodafone alone could have brought this market down 10%.
I take your point, Samir.
Everything as an external crisis.
I take your point, Samir, absolutely. I also want to understand, how you see this playing out, as you said, 6 months or more down the line, given that we're seeing massive stimulus around the world, still waiting for it in India, and a definite change in world order when we get out of this, perhaps increased localization. What does all of that mean then for us going forward?
You see, that in theory should benefit India, but then I'm myself confused. So you please find out that what happens to the India call centers and all that, where India is the back office of the world. Have they made those services exempt or essential services? For if not, here we are dreaming that some of the companies which are outsourcing to China will try and have a backup or a small backup to make their supply chains more resilient, may have some, business that they bring to India. But on the other hand, if our call center and basically catering as a back office to the world is stopped for the next 20 days, then you will have those businesses finding resilience moving to Philippines or somewhere else. I don't think that I read in that. Well, I don't understand exactly when they said IT or something, whether this is covered or not, but nobody seems to have spoken about it. That how are these guys managing to go? So my thing is, first of all, we should get out of this 21 days with dignity where, the public is not being harassed in some sense by the police, whatever I see in photos, and that supplies are there, and that, medicines are there. And then separately from a India point of view, because India should present itself and come out of it as a country which could handle this bigger crisis with dignity. And then you get the multinationals' confidence that at least for domestic local supplies, where anyway there is a duty protection under Make in India, that some of those things can be made in India, maybe initially for domestic consumption. And as those companies become comfortable with handling India, they will naturally use it also for export. So that advantage I think India will get, provided in the meantime it doesn't, like this, I see this IT thing is a bit of an angle, but I'm not 100% sure that these things should not be seen as, not being dealt professionally over the word.
Samir, thanks for joining in this morning, getting a different perspective there.